Perfect. Hi, Sam.
Hey y'all, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. This is also my first live event, so I'm really excited about this. Thanks for having me.
That's
Oh my
perfect.
goodness.
Well, you
This
did
is
awesome,
fun.
Tara. Good
I
job.
did it. I did it. And we're just hi Sam. I'm just looking at all the comments. So this is like the first live I've done this, which is too cute. So I like have to pay attention and not look at all these comments. Do another one.
The
Okay.
comments are the best part. Get on here.
I know. Okay.
So fun.
So do you guys want to kind of kick it off? Obviously, I think a lot of my followers know my story, but I can go into a little more detail too. But just intro yourselves to everyone so they know what they're getting into here.
Yeah. So
Sure,
I'm
go for it.
Lauren Clements. I'm with Chosen Infertility Group. Super excited to actually be doing this tonight because myself, I'm an infertility warrior. I struggled for 3 years. And for me, it's always been important, you're constantly having to be your own advocate through this whole process and figuring out all the resources and the bits and pieces you need as you're going through it. And so it was so awesome to do this. I'm excited to do this with you and Sam because I know for many of us, by the time we do get to surrogacy as being an option, we're tired and we're trying to figure everything out. And it's just a whole new world that we've got to try to navigate. And so I know Sam's going to help us. Sam's with Circle Surrogacy, the CEO and president. And so for any of you that are joining, this will be really awesome. Sam can answer loads of questions, and Tara's got perspective because she's been through it, right?
Yeah, definitely. I have my story, don't I?
Yes. Yes, it's such a heartwarming though, because look at that little baby in the
Uh,
back.
I know,
I
and
love it.
it's been really. Yeah, I'm gonna let you go and intro yourself as well, and then
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be here. So my name is Sam Hyde. I'm the president of Circle Surrogacy and Egg Donation, one of the owners of the agency. I got into this field because I too had a struggle with infertility. My wife and I struggled for many years before finally having success with IVF, and made a career change and decided I wanted to do something that was a little bit closer to the heart. And so joined Circle 6 years ago. Circle is the largest surrogacy agency in the country. Probably about 300 babies born through our program this year. We've got a fantastic team, and yeah, just really excited to be here and help however I can and answer any questions that people have about surrogacy and egg donation. And obviously love to hear Tara's story and Lauren's story as well. So
yeah,
just thanks for having me on.
of course. Yeah, I mean, I'll jump on and kind of fill everyone in, which I'm sure many of you that are following me know my story by now. But 5 long years of infertility, that just really for me our biggest obstacle was pregnancy loss and trying to figure out an unexplained infertility diagnosis and why I couldn't keep these pregnancies, which was devastating and heartbreaking. But beyond that, it was just 5 years, half a decade of infertility treatment, whether it was IVF or going through miscarriage or loss or retrievals or transfers or failed transfers. So my husband and I definitely we had a long road, but we found out towards the end that we tested everything, really couldn't find anything. The only test that popped up was now people are doing more reproductive immunology testing, and there's obviously a lot of different thoughts on that. But for us, it was the only test that popped up as a problem where my husband and I had an HLA incompatibility. And there were some options for us to move forward where I could do IVIG infusions and, go on an immune protocol. But like you mentioned, Lauren, I think after you go through so much, you're so tired by the time you get to this point where you're needing to make really big decisions. And I was exhausted. I was coming off my fourth miscarriage, and it was a difficult recovery. And I just kind of knew that, yes, I could keep trying. I could keep losing embryos. I could keep wasting time in this unknown. Or I could make a different choice to build our family. And I really was just so ready at that point to choose surrogacy. So we went, that way. And it was, it's a hard decision for anyone. That's not how you originally think you're going to build your family. So there's a long process of, for me, I think I grieved that probably very early on. And then, you're faced with different obstacles. So for us, it was losing these pregnancies, losing these babies. And the thought of surrogacy became hope, became a way to, combat whatever the infertility gods threw at us. And it was the best decision for our family. And I love our surrogate. She is family now. And it was a really beautiful experience, just because pregnancy after loss, even though I wasn't carrying, is difficult. And I really needed a partner. And my surrogate's name is Michaela. I should have told her, she should be watching. But she was my best teammate that I could ever ask for. And we went through this journey together, and we brought, beautiful Georgie earthside finally. And that is our story. And I think for me, the reason why I'm so passionate about, what we do with the podcast, and every week doing the podcast and building this community, and I want to spread awareness. I think there's still such a stigma around surrogacy. I think, and it's shocking because people are doing it. You see celebrities doing it. That Chrissy is the surrogate, or Kim Kardashian is the surrogate, but people truly, I think, don't talk about it enough. Conversations aren't had enough to make people feel a little more comfortable around choosing that decision without any shame or negative feelings. So I think for me, going through the journey taught me so much. It's opened my own eyes to the beauty of surrogacy. And I also know, what else I'm trying to do is not only spread awareness, but try to help in any way I can when it comes to, helping others in the community that maybe don't have the finances or financial aid to continue treatment or to choose surrogacy. And so I always want to mention that, because I know how lucky we were to take this step of surrogacy. Because, that is an option, but it's not an option for everyone. So I always feel that I do, acknowledge that all of these decisions are so hard.
They are.
But I do love being able to connect with women over I have this DM Instagram life now where I'm just connecting with all these women, and there's so many people that are reaching out to me saying my doctor is recommending surrogacy as our next option, and I don't want to do it, and these are my fears. And then through talking to people, I think we're able to connect. And I think people don't know enough about, what a journey with surrogacy could look like. And I've just really enjoyed being able to, share my story, and maybe it makes other people a little more open or feel a little more comfortable, because I would be the last person you'd expect that would have wanted a surrogacy journey 5 years ago. I'm super type A. A bit of a control freak. There's a lot about me that doesn't make me the perfect candidate for that.
Well, I think that that's true for so many people. Absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest things with surrogacy is just like the fear of the unknown and giving up the control. And, I hate to say it, but like all this time we haven't had any control with infertility, right? But this is just taking like the next leap of faith and putting it in someone else's hands. And I think what's so awesome about your story is showing people that there is so much light at the end of the tunnel. And there really is like so much. Now you can consider her your family. So I think it's awesome that you're sharing. And this is super great that we're doing this. Oh, can you hear me now?
I can hear you fine. Yeah,
you cut out for a minute.
Yeah, and
okay,
I think you raised a great point that awareness is so low about surrogacy in general, right? I think that one of the great things about having a platform like you have, Tara, is just the ability to bring it to the forefront for people. I know when my wife and I were going through our infertility journey, my oldest daughter is now 8, so this was 10 years ago, 11 years ago. The number of people we would say that oh, we're going through IVF, and they would kind of whisper to us like, oh yeah, we're doing it too, and it's like we don't need to be whispering about this. Like this is just part of the human experience, and so I love that you're being public with your journey and bringing that to so many people, because there are a lot of people out there that like you, have gone through loss, have had multiple losses, and they're thinking, do I just have to keep doing this forever, or are there other options for me? And the ability to say like, oh, surrogacy is an option, right? And now we're fortunate enough, as a society, that we've had, a number of celebrities go through it over the last 5 or 6 years, that the awareness of it is so much higher that people say like, oh, I don't have to keep going through loss after loss after loss. I have this other option here that can be incredibly rewarding, can be incredibly fulfilling, and it can help me get to the finish line, right? And end with that goal of holding the baby. And so, yeah, I love that you're out there, making it public and kind of being open as a person about it, because I think there's just a lot of people out there that are benefiting from that.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people don't know, I think even as much as I knew about surrogacy, started my journey, it just really felt like an option that I didn't think about.
Yeah.
And it is one of my, a lot of people will be like, are there any regrets? And the only regret I have is that I didn't open my mind to surrogacy much earlier in this journey. I put myself through a lot of pain and trauma that I can't, get back, embryos back that I lost. I can't get, you get to the point where you just realize, like you said, the end goal is what you're doing for.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to the stigma. There's still so many people and friends and coworkers, just so many people I talk to that are going through IVF that they don't really talk about it. It's not open conversation, and it's still a thing where a lot of people be like, but the doctor says I can still get pregnant naturally, and I think that is where people get hung up, that they feel this need, even if their body is, struggling, to keep going down a path that is taxing emotionally, physically, financially. And, surrogacy obviously is, to me, I just had no idea what a beautiful relationship I was going to form with my surrogate and with the journey. Like, you hear women say, oh, I miss pregnancy. And when I came home, I thought, oh, I'm going to maybe feel, this urge to go through the immune protocol treatments and try again on my own to get pregnant. That's what I thought I would come home to. And instead, my husband was like, what is wrong with you? I was crying. My pregnancy with Michaela is over. And what am I going to do tomorrow? We're not planning appointments and talking about the baby. And I was like, the baby's right here. So focus. And the pregnancy with Michaela, because it was so beautiful.
Yeah.
The connection, I think, but the connection between surrogates and intended parents is just, it's so awesome to see, because I think oftentimes you're connecting people that, may not have met kind of in, real life, so to speak. And, I think it just highlights this amazing commonality that so many people have, that they can share this goal together. And, the highest praise that we hear, I think, as an agency is, I loved my surrogate. That is like, obviously getting the finish line is the end goal, but that connection is just, it's absolutely incredible to see unfold on so many journeys.
It really is.
So, question, guys. So, if for anyone that may be with us tonight and they are finding that their next step is going to be passively surrogacy, where should they start? What's like the first step, do you think, in getting the resources and getting started with the process?
Sam, and that's all you. I'm going to let you go with that.
Yeah, sure. No, I'll jump in. Yeah, so it's a really good question, right? I think first and foremost, I think you probably both agree, like, this is a decision that should be made in concert with your doctor, right? I mean, we entrust our journeys with, accomplished IVF doctors for a reason. It's because they've seen a lot of these things unfold. and you should work with your doctor to determine whether surrogacy is the right option for you as a family. The next step is really just to go out and to start interviewing agencies, right? The reality of the agency landscape is there's probably about 400 agencies in the country that do surrogacy and egg donation, but there's probably only about half a dozen or so of us that I think have really had a really long track record of success across thousands of journeys, right? Circle, we just had our 3,000th baby born through our program about 3 months ago. It was very exciting for us as an agency. We've been in business now for 26 years. And there's probably another half a dozen agencies like us that have been around for a really long time. And so, go out and search for those agencies and of course, ask your doctor for recommendations as well. But, try to find an established agency that's been around for a long time. Do your legwork of interviewing multiple agencies to see who you connect with. Not every program at every agency is the same as every program at every other agency. Every agency does it a little bit different. What services they have in-house versus what services they would connect you with a third party in. For instance, Circle, we have all of our services in-house: lawyers, accountants, social workers, everything. But that's not necessarily unique, and it might not be necessarily what you need, right? So you kind of have to figure out what you need as an individual for your specific journey. One of the things I wouldn't worry about that I think parents do worry about a little bit at the beginning is like, I want an agency close to me. I want an agency that's in my town, or something like that. And I can tell you as an agency owner, it just doesn't really matter, right? Like, we're headquartered in Boston, but our parents in Boston have the same success rates as our parents in LA and have the same success rates as our parents in London. It just, being close to your agency doesn't matter. I would find the agency where you feel a connection with them, and they have a program that meets what you need. But first start by talking to your doctor.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I'll just jump on that too and say that, one of the things is find a support group. I mean, that's where, I've just found that for all of the people that have joined Chosen, being able to chat with someone that's along a similar journey makes all the difference, because you're really speaking the same language. Some people are a little bit further ahead in their journey than others. And so they might have already gone through navigated some of those obstacles, right? Where they can kind of help you so that it's a little bit easier. And so it's just really like looking at the resources. I know I've seen some of these comments come up. Surrogacy is so expensive. But there's resources out there for that as well too, right? I'm not sure, Sam, if you have anything to join in on like the cost portion of it. But I know that's a big barrier for a lot of people.
Yeah, it is a big barrier, and when you're talking about IVF costs plus the costs of working with a surrogacy agency, you're talking about probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000 or above, which is an incredible amount of money. It's probably the most expensive thing most people buy outside of their primary residence, and so it is a big bridge to cross. There are resources out there, right? So there's a company called Sunfish, which does fertility financing. Same with Future Family, also does financing around fertility. The interest rates are a little bit higher today than they were, 12 months ago, but they're still fairly manageable. If you're a same-sex couple, there's a company called Men Having Babies, very descriptive, but it's all dedicated towards helping gay men have babies through surrogacy and egg donation, and they also have grant programs available for members of their members of the community that join Men Having Babies. So there are resources out there to help make it a little bit more financially feasible. A lot of parents will choose to break up their journey into multiple parts. So they'll do maybe their IVF, first, create your embryos, get those frozen. Those can stay frozen basically forever, and then wait, or save over the course of the next couple of years to then start their surrogacy journey after that. So you kind of break it into two parts. Always do your IVF first. The earlier you create your embryos, the better. If you're a hetero couple and using your own eggs, of course. But you can also break it up into multiple parts. So, and the last option I would mention is, if you do own a home, we do see parents take out a home equity line of credit occasionally to help finance a journey. The interest rates tend to be a little bit better than you'll find through a dedicated fertility financing company. So, just a couple options are out there.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part, especially the comments. And obviously, I've been talking to so many women. It is obviously not just we talk about, the emotional aspect of it and moving on to different, journeys and decisions and how you're going to build your family. But then when it's the nuts and bolts of it all, and it's expensive, and that hurts my heart. But I love hearing, obviously, that there are some options, and I'm trying to do my best on my end. And I know I've been working with Baby Quest, I've been working with Hope for Fertility, and then you mentioned Sunfish, which they're really doing incredible things. I actually had another meeting with them yesterday. They just gave out a $10,000 fertility grant.
Oh, awesome.
Which is incredible. So I will definitely, if people are following me, I will definitely be spreading the word of all these grants that I'm, trying to get. But they're, speaking with Baby Quest, Hope for Fertility, they are trying so hard to give opportunities to people that need, not only surrogacy, but IVF treatments and other fertility treatments. So
Yeah.
obviously I don't know as much as you do, Sam, but I do know that there's a few options out there, and I'll keep spreading the word.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, there are, and I think the one comment I would make on cost, as you go and you compare the cost of different agencies, I think it's really important to understand what's included in those costs and what's not. I think, unfortunately, as I said, there's 400 agencies out there or something like that. Some of them will kind of advertise a lower cost because they want parents to join, and there is an old adage, like, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. These things cost a lot, and there's a reason for that, right? The surrogate is getting compensated generously for her time and the risk that she's taking. There's lawyers involved, there's accountants involved, there's mental health professionals involved, there's IVF doctors involved, travel agencies. It takes 2 years to go through a journey, and there's just a lot of work that has to go in as a collective village to get people to the finish line.
Right.
And the reality is that that does cost money for that to happen. And so I think having a really careful eye, especially if you're in a position where you need to be budget conscious, having a very particular eye about what is included and what is not included. Is it a variable cost or a fixed cost? Can really make sure you're not going to run into surprises down the road, because that's the worst part of it, right? Is someone doesn't understand the cost at an agency that has a variable cost program, and they have a bump in the road, which we've all been through on our personal lives, bumps in the road when it comes to infertility, the three of us at least. They happen in surrogacy too, right? Not every surrogacy journey is perfect, and the last thing we want is a bump in the road to happen and then parents to be surprised with extra costs or things like that might come up in with an agency that's a variable cost program. And so just keep a really close eye on that as you go through your research phase.
Actually,
Yeah.
I had a comment that's interesting to me. Kayla is asking, can you comment on fear of unsuccessful embryo implantation with the surrogate, discussing cost, risks, etc. And I think that's so interesting, because that is a huge fear. I mean, even as we prepared for our journey and as we prepare for a second journey, these embryos that cost so much to make in the first place, even if you're a surrogate, there's still that, if it's a PGT tested embryo, there's still a 60 to 65% chance it works, which is an incredible statistic in comparison to natural pregnancy. But it is scary being on the other end, knowing, you have that 40% where it's a gamble and it couldn't work. And a lot of times, my doctor prepared me that it may not work the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a real, it is an issue, right? And Tara, you mentioned the success rates are actually phenomenal, right? I mean, 60, 65, 70% at good clinics is that's an incredible percentage. But that does mean that there are people that end up in spots where they pay for their surrogate to go to the clinic, they pay for their surrogate to go through the embryo transfer, and she does not have success. And look, sometimes, if you flip a coin, sometimes you come up heads 3 times in a row. Sometimes that happens twice in a row, even with 70% chances. Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, exactly, right? So it's just, that cost can really add up. And when you're talking about a surrogacy journey, it can add up really fast, because your surrogate is going to be flying to the clinic, staying in a hotel, she gets paid or compensated each time she does a transfer. And so if you're in a variable cost program, which a lot of small agencies have variable cost programs, you're kind of stroking that check every time that happens. Thankfully, some of the larger agencies, Circle, kind of pioneered this. We have a fixed cost program. So if your first transfer doesn't work, the cost is included for her to go transfer a second time or a third time or a fourth time, et cetera. And we just charge one fee and we stick with you until you go home with a baby. So sometimes that means we take it on the nose. I mean, we had a journey last year that, as an agency, we went into our pocket for about $90,000 to help parents finish the journey because they had a match break with an egg donor, then a match break with a surrogate. They had multiple transfers, but they went home with a baby, and so that's a huge win for us and for them, obviously. And so just having an eye again on what is included and what's not is really, really important because when those bumps in the road hit, costs can go in the wrong direction really fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one thing I just want to say too, for one, I didn't want to cut anybody off earlier, but if anybody is in Michigan and needs financial help, Chosen Infertility Group also has grants as well. We're super excited to have Tara at our upcoming gala event, March 9th. And so that'll be super awesome because we'll be able to actually talk more about surrogacy with everybody, but also hopefully have our grant recipients of this year there as well. Awesome. But to kind of go, going back to kind of what you were talking about, Sam, I think a lot of the challenges differ based on what state you live in. And I know for a lot of people, Michigan, lucky us, happens to have a little bit more challenges when it comes to surrogacy. So I don't know if you could touch on that at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to. So for those of you that are not aware, which you wouldn't, of course, be probably aware because you haven't met Lauren and I before, but we actually live like 2 miles away from each other here in Michigan. So, and we both live in, unfortunately, one of the last 2 states in the country where surrogacy is illegal. So although that is, I think, about to change, hopefully there's a bill in the Michigan it passed the Michigan House. It's in the Michigan Senate. Governor Whitmer has indicated a willingness to sign it. And so hopefully very soon, maybe by January 1st is what I'm hearing, surrogacy will be legal in Michigan, which would just be phenomenal news. So yeah, you hit the nail on the head, right? Costs do differ based on the state you're in. And they differ in 2 primary ways, right? First off, the legal work is different state by state, right? So some states have really simple legal work, shout out to Illinois, where it's basically just walk in the court and you give them a piece of paper and boom, bing, bang, boom, your parents. Other states have much more complicated legal work and you need to get a lawyer involved and do quite a bit of legwork associated with that. And that can drive costs, of course, with attorneys. And then the second place that costs differ by state is, some states there's a lot higher demand for surrogates. And in those states, the surrogates tend to ask for slightly higher compensation. So California is a great example of this. Love California, but surrogates in California tend to make maybe $10,000 more than a surrogate in, Indiana or North Carolina or something like that. And so, again, just like it actually doesn't really matter where your agency is, I don't even really think it matters where your surrogate is, generally speaking, as long as she's in a state where it's legal to do surrogacy. And so if you're on the budget conscious side of things, preference for a surrogate that's in Texas or Florida or North Carolina or Ohio versus Massachusetts or Connecticut or New York, California or Oregon or Washington or Colorado, because those states tend to have a bit higher demand. And because of that, the surrogates tend to ask for a little bit higher compensation. So there's... Pardon?
Someone's asking about New York. Is New York a friendly state?
Yeah, so New York is a surrogate-friendly state. So the law in New York just changed, I think, 2 years ago now. And it's a little bit of an interesting law. It's unique in the country in that surrogacy agencies have to register with the state to be able to provide services in that state. So Circle is one of, I think, 6 agencies that are registered in New York. It's actually probably our biggest state for parents. It's not our biggest state for surrogates, but it is our biggest state for parents. So we do a ton of work in New York, and it is absolutely legal. When you're thinking about legality in this space, it's the location of the surrogate that matters most. It's the location that the baby's born. So parents from Michigan can still go through surrogacy. Hundreds and hundreds of parents from Michigan have gone through successful surrogacy journeys. They've just had a surrogate that's not in Michigan.
That's good.
Hopefully, again, that will change. Yeah, hopefully, again, that will change sometime soon. But it is the state that surrogate is in that makes it legal. But now New York, you can have parents and surrogates both from New York, and it's a
Yeah,
great state for surrogacy.
I was with Happy Things in Chicago, I believe, who's
Yep.
a agency, and then my surrogate Michaela was in Idaho,
Nice.
and obviously I'm in California. So
Yeah.
yes, I think if you're a little confused on how all that works, I think just making sure you find the right agency, the right surrogate for you is the most important part. And for me, that's when I was matching is because I had this beautiful journey with Michaela. I definitely took my time. When you're getting these bios, or having these Zoom calls to make sure this person is my match. And
Yeah.
so I wouldn't have cared where I lived. I just was so interested in connection and knowing that we were a good match for each other. That's another thing people don't realize. A lot of these surrogates, I mean, they are angels, right? And they also
Literally.
literal,
Yeah.
but they want a journey that they're dreaming of too. And Michaela had been through other surrogacies, and she really wanted a different journey. She wanted this connection, and we were able to, I think, both be there and fulfill each other's needs on the journey.
How did you know when you first found her? What was like the moment where you were like, yes, this is it?
So you get a bio, you get a little idea of who they are because they'll write, I would like to have communication. This is the reason why I am doing surgery. So her whole story, I kind of felt was going to be a perfect match, but who knows? And then we got on the Zoom, and I don't know. It's one of those things. It's how do you pick a boyfriend? How do you pick a friend?
Yeah.
Just her person. And I just knew when she, got on, and her whole outlook, her personality, just everything. It was exactly, I think I said it. I was, you're my kind of person. Like, we get each other. And I think that could be different for everyone. I'm very, worried about certain things, especially after the we went on. And Michaela was just my match. We'd worry about when the appointment time was, and if someone, sorry for my crazy dog, someone, but didn't get the result back, we need to be on top of that. And we just had a very similar approach to life in general, which made it really nice to go through that journey together.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I love that spark is so common. I mean, when we talk to parents, they're like, I'm sitting there waiting for the Zoom call to start, and I feel like it's kind of like a blind date. I don't know who's going to really show up on the other side. And most of the time we talk to parents or talk to surrogates, and they're like, yeah, I knew within the first like 15 seconds that like I was going to match with this person. Yeah, it's really amazing.
Well, I'm
like,
also
it's
the type of person that can't hold anything back. So I think on the call, I was like, I mean, I don't know how you feel, but this feels great. Let's do it. And there's like obviously a lot of, legal work and things that have to go through that we can't just get off the phone and start our journey. But I kind of knew.
I love it. So awesome. Well, no, this has been amazing to have the three of us together and go over a lot of this. I don't know if I know we've been picking up questions as they've kind of been coming up. And hopefully if anybody has any more, definitely.
If anyone has any questions, put them out now. But while we're waiting, Lauren, I just want to thank you because we talked about obviously how expensive infertility it can be in someone's life, whether it is just treatment or surrogacy or adoption. I mentioned some people that I've just cold called and reached out to for fertility grants, but I just want to thank you for what you do with life. You're changing people's worlds and families. And I look at baby Georgie and I just think how, lucky we are and how grateful we are to have this opportunity, and you give out these opportunities. So thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you. I often tell everybody that this is like my own form of therapy, right? Like after having gone through it, it's just like, it's like a dream in itself. I remember like right after I brought home our girls, I sat there and cried and felt like I was kicked out of the infertility group. And so for me, it's like this is just an extension of the journey that we went on. And I feel like there was so much that we learned along the way that it just feels completely organic and natural to just continue doing this. And the right back at both of you guys, right? Because you're both doing the same thing. So I'm just proud to be right in line with other people, spreading the love, because I think we all need that in this world for sure.
Absolutely.
And I'm looking at some questions. So we have one that says, how long is the ideal journey? Is there a backup wait list now in Cali?
Yeah, so the reality is, there are a lot of people that are interested in being surrogates, but the screening rate it's really difficult to get approved to be a surrogate. As we talked about, the cost is high, and so we run a really rigorous screening process for potential candidates. We actually only accept like about 1.5% to 2% of the individuals that apply with us to become a surrogate. So there is a wait list, right? It is. And it's a little bit longer than I'd like right now. It's probably about 12 months right now from when you sign on with an agency to be able to get matched with a surrogate. My hope is that we're going to be in a position to bring that down coming into the new year, but it is a little bit longer than we'd like today. And it's just a reflection of the fact that, as an agency, we really can't compromise on the standards that we've set from a suitability perspective for potential applicants, and we've held the line on that. And California in particular is a difficult state just because there's so much demand for surrogates in California. I keep talking about 400 agencies in the country. I bet 60 of them or 75 of them are in California alone, and so there's just a lot of demand for potential surrogates in the state, and so it's tough to find a great surrogate. Period. But California in particular, again, there's nothing special about a surrogate from California, right? There's plenty of neighboring states that have great candidates as well, and so something we could certainly talk about, as an individual, just understand what your journey's like. But right now, the wait list is probably around that number.
Yeah, and then I see a question here. Do you have a specific number of embryos to start the surrogacy process? Would it be too risky to go through the surrogacy process if you only have one PG tested embryo?
Yeah, great question. So, you only need one, first off. So my wife and I, now we have 3 kids, but the first 2 times we did IVF, each time we only had one embryo, and we had success both times. So we're incredibly fortunate after a long road to get there. And so you only need one. Generally speaking, I think that to feel really good about your chances of having a successful pregnancy and birth, I would say you ideally want to have 3 or 4. But we do have a good number of parents that join us each year that we kind of just, in our agency parlance to say is one and done. They have one embryo and they want to give it a shot. And we certainly support that. We have a really generous money back program where if you don't have success, you get the vast majority of the money back, because you didn't need a lot of our services, right? You never got pregnant. You didn't have to have all the journey management and the legal work that happens if you are fortunate enough to be able to get there. And so we often support parents in that similar situation. And I get it. You have one embryo left. I think a lot of people feel like I want to give that embryo a chance. I want to see if I can make it happen. I know if it was me personally, for my family, like I would want to do that. And so we've tried to build a program that supports that. So ideally you have more, but we can absolutely talk and absolutely try to support you as best we can.
Yeah, I think that what I would say about the one embryo is just from my own experience. We have more embryos. We weren't in that position, but we had lost so many embryos and I was trying to replenish them. And I actually was surprised that I felt such relief knowing this embryo was going to go in to a surrogate that, has been vetted, has had successful pregnancies. There was this feeling even throughout the pregnancy where, it's sad to say, like my body clearly struggled to keep these pregnancies and I didn't trust my body. And it was almost this feeling of relief to know that, I trusted Michaela's body so much. So again, if anyone's, I always try to add these thoughts because I never thought that I'd have them or even think of these things. But obviously surrogacy, when you go on that journey, it prompts a lot of emotions and thoughts. And so many of them are feelings I thought I would never really feel. And how comforting it was to go through surrogacy in a way after my journey.
It's great commentary.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. That's definitely a big point.
Well, I feel like, a lot of people are waving, but I don't know if we have any more specific surrogacy questions. Maybe we give it one more second, but it was so fun talking to you guys. And
Absolutely. This was fantastic.
yeah.
And if anybody has any questions, you can certainly reach out to me. I will also share Sam's information as well, and we can try to answer some of those questions following this event here. But it's been so awesome getting the three of us together because it's really been something I've been wanting to do for a while. Get the professional who does this on a daily basis, but then also Tara, your story honestly is so inspiring to so many people right now, with just everything that you've gone through. And when I think of all of that you've been through, honestly, I feel like I could just hug you through the camera. So
you too, though. We've all been through it. So we all know. And I think that's what connects us and why we all try to make a difference here. So,
yeah.
And I have a Michigan connection too. I trained.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
So I feel like you two live there, and it's like, oh, but I know Michigan too. I don't know if you are to that Franklin cider mill, but that's my spot.
I love the
Franklin
Franklin cider mill.
Saw, but Detroit Skating Club joined, so they said, "Hey."
No way, guys. DSC Sullivan excited by my voice by saying that, but I trained at DSC, so that is home forever. Hi,
yes.
DSC.
I know. I hope they're still on. That's so fun.
I know my little banner is still hanging of people sending it, and I get so.
I had to tag you on Instagram one day because my girls were posing in front of it, and I was like, perfect.
I love it.
I know. So love all the Michigan vibes, but no matter where you're at, everybody, we're here for you. Ice skaters or no figure skaters. So one way or another, but this was super amazing. And Tara, thank you so much for hosting and Sam for joining.
Thank you both. This is great.
Between the both of you, you guys answered so many questions. And I just hope that for anybody that finds themselves possibly traveling among, the surrogacy journey, that they feel a little bit more comfortable in doing so and know where to start.
Great.
So
thank you both. This was fantastic. Loved it.
Thank you. And everybody, happy Thanksgiving. I hope everybody has such a good holiday.
Yes. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thank
you.
you.
Thank you all.
Bye, guys.
Bye.